No, just introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you doing here? Why did you pick classics in French? That kind of thing.
So I'm here because I am a big fan of Gabe's StudyTube channel. I'm just okay. So basically, I applied. I have to start with my name, don't I? I am here to tell you about classics in French and why I picked it, why I picked my universities in specific. So
Go
I
ahead.
chose to apply firstly for classics in French at Oxford, and then some other combinations of subjects at other universities. So I applied for liberal arts at Durham, Latin and French at Exeter, etc., etc. But basically, I chose kind of combinations of those subjects because I really wanted to do something that was like a literary based degree, but with language. So I always enjoyed studying languages in school. Latin was my favorite subject. I run a classics meme page, so I knew I liked to kind of research outside the syllabus and kind of get to know subjects that were unfamiliar to me. And yeah, and for French, I'm just doing French like literally since primary, because in Scotland in the primary school they make you do it in like nursery. So yeah, I just liked it.
What made you pick classics specifically, other than like doing, say, English lit and language, or like maybe history with a bit of a language or something?
Well, I enjoyed doing English lit. I actually did English lit A level, but I dropped it because I preferred the other ones. Because I just like I like having translation and language in there somewhere like history. I mean, with classics, like I don't know why I just found classical history more interesting than kind of the kind of modern period. I don't know, but it's mostly language for me. Like it's the translation aspect and the kind of I don't know the literature in translation, which I preferred to kind of doing something like English lit. But I did like English lit as well,
Do you have
and
any
Start of the Empire. So
do you have any advice for people applying for classics, or just people applying to uni in general?
mm. So for classics, it's so varied because you can either start with language or start having never studied language before in school. But I would basically recommend, first of all, like identifying an area which you'd be most interested in the classics. So, for example, for me, I studied Latin in school, so it was easy enough for me to know what areas I was interested in. So, I liked Ovid, for example, who's a love poet, and I thought, okay, so I like this love poetry, so I'm going to go into look at some more love poetry, and then I can build up that kind of literature arsenal and like use that for my interview and my personal statement and everything. And also, I would say just like do things that are different and unique. Like, for example, some of my friends did like archaeology. So if you're into archaeology, maybe do a dig or something. I have my meme page, which was always quite an eye catcher on my personal statement. I did a reading competition. I won it because I was the only person in it, but I still wrote down in my personal statement that I won it. Essay competitions and stuff like that. Just like I would show your initiative. And for classics, you're pretty much, if you're applying for Oxford, you have a high chance of getting an interview because the interview rate's pretty high. So I would just like try and be confident in yourself and like think of yourself as your own person and not compare yourself to others, because that's what I did for like the entire interview time, and it made me feel really bad. And like then I ended up getting in, and the other people who I thought were like literally amazing didn't get in. So just like try and I don't know, not compare yourself to other people in the process, I'd say. My piece of advice would be if you're doing like a literary based or like more humanities based degree, or any degree actually, just write, if you read a book or like do watch a video or something, write down a bit about it straight after you've read it. Because when I came to interview, I was like, well, I've read this book in French and I have no idea what it's about, so I have to go into Spark Notes and stuff. So like once you've read it, just write down what you found interesting, a bit of a summary, and like some points that you would want to discuss at interview. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Gabriel and I'm going to be studying law next year in October in Oxford, so I'm just a genius.
Introduce yourself, tell me what subject you've applied for, why you've picked Oxford, that kind of thing.
I'm Sarah. I've applied for biochemistry, and I mostly applied to Oxford because of the research prospects afterwards. And they also are one of the only unis which has this really general first year, where you sort of get the physics of biochem, the maths of biochem, and then like the physical inorganic and organic chemistry of biochem. So they give you a really good foundation in year one, so that you can then build up from that with all the skills you need.
Do you have any like how was your interview? Like, what was the interview process for you specifically like?
I quite enjoyed some of them. They were definitely a bit uncomfortable, but all of the stuff that you got asked, it was content that you would know if you'd done A levels or like AS levels, so you didn't have to do any extra reading for it. And it was a lot more applying what you already knew to unfamiliar contexts. For one of my interviews, I got given like a article to read beforehand, and I think it was on HIV as well, which was quite nice because you could then tailor the things you'd read in that article to your areas of knowledge. So I went down a very like immunology based route with that because that's what I know the most about. And they were quite happy for you to just sort of use that as a base to guide the interview yourself a bit, which was nice.
Do you have any like general advice for people applying to university, or like
I think
something you wish you would know back now that no wait something you wish you would have known back then that you know now type thing?
don't get out of Oxford. um, I think just expose yourself to the subject as much as you can. And for me, it was my work experience, which sucks for year 12s. But if you can do like a course or something in the subject you're looking at, then you can actually get a feel for if that subject is what you want to spend the next 3 years doing.
So far has consisted of sitting down, sitting down, sitting down, eating, sitting down. I mean, I was eating while being sat down, as is quite normal, I think. Sitting down, and currently I'm sitting down. So yeah. So my name's Oliver. I'm 18 years old. Right now, I would have been walking home from school maybe after a long day. I don't know. Probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. I applied to 5 universities, maximum. So Oxford, Belfast, Birmingham, Durham, and Manchester. I got offers from 4 of them. Didn't get offer from Manchester because I didn't go to my interview. And I put down Oxford as my firm and Belfast as my insurance for music, if I didn't say that already.
Why did you pick Oxford over the other 3? Like, what stood out to you specifically? Not just when firming it, but like when you applied, what made you think, oh, Oxford over, say, Cambridge or St. Andrews or whatever other music universities there are? I'm not
Well,
great.
I just really love Oxford. It's probably the nicest city I've ever been to. It's really friendly. In all honesty, like Oxford is I think 7th in the UK for music, so it's not like I went. It's not like I only applied because it's this kind of insanely prestigious university for music. It's top 10, so it's good. But like Durham, for example, is number 1, but I just don't like Durham.
Mood.
That's all. Its colleges are like youth hostels. While lots of colleges are all nice, apart from cats. So Oxford is just really nice. And Exeter College, which is the college I'm at or will be at, hopefully. It's just it's nice and central. Got a great chapel, and its tutors to music are quite good as well. So yeah, applied to Oxford. Whoop whoop.
What made you pick music specifically, like as a degree choice?
I think it'd just been a massive waste if I hadn't.
How so?
No, just kidding. I think you can skip that bit. So for me, music for me is quite fascinating. It's a language, but also an art, and I don't really think there's much else like that. For music, you can either go to university, which is what I've chosen, or you can go to conservatoire. Conservatoires are pretty much practical, purely practical. So you can compose there, but you have to do that on an instrument, and you spend most of the time just practicing and playing instruments. While at university, like Oxford, it's a lot about research. There's practical stuff as well, and compositional stuff, which doesn't require you to play an instrument. And I think that's just great. I really love music. I've played guitar since I was 7, picked up a few instruments along the way as well. So it's kind of been a big part of my life, like a massive part of my life. And then I just knew that I wanted to continue at university.
Do you have any like sort of advice for people applying for music or just people applying in university in general? Just like to stand out, I guess.
I'd say so for the personal statement, it's I kind of approached it just like a sectioned essay. So one section for this, one section for this. There's quite a useful guide online called The Witch. It's like a witch guide. So WHICH, like the Witch Best Buy. And that was really useful. I followed that structure and just kind of filled it in. I mean, like, don't be afraid to not brag, but be
Exaggerate.
Yeah, exaggerate and about what you've done, and also whenever you mention that you've done something, say what it's done to help you, particularly in that field. Because it's nice. Obviously, it's still nice if you say, "Oh yeah, I participated in this competition when I was 15." But it's even better if you then say, "And this taught me this, or this helped me understand this."
So just
that
elaborate.
is really fundamental to getting university to like you. And that, to be honest, just don't panic. I mean, it's at the end of the day, whatever happens will happen. And if you're good enough, which I hope you are, or if you apply to Oxford, then you will get in.
I think it's more just rather than saying good enough. I think it's more about whether you vibe with that particular uni more, or like you work together. Because there are some people that are incredibly intelligent that just wouldn't want to go to Oxford at all because it just doesn't suit them. So it's kind of like what uni fits you the most. You kind of have to do the research and not just pick it for the sake of picking it type thing. So yeah, why don't you just give me an introduction to who you are, what you do, what subject you're studying?
Well, I'm Ethan. I did further maths and chemistry A-levels, and I have an offer for chemistry at Oxford.
If you were to give one piece of advice to people applying to university this year, specifically for like chemistry or like Oxbridge, what would you say? Like, what would you tell them?
In terms of chemistry, I think definitely don't just be focused on one part of chemistry, because I was, and I found it quite hard in my interviews, particularly when they then mixed two parts of chemistry. Like you can't separate them. It's kind of, you got to think of it as one subject. Also, know why you're applying for chemistry, because it's a weird one. It's by far not the most popular science, and that's because people don't know why they're doing it, I think. So think about that, I guess.
Is there any like source or like website or something that you used particularly that made you like know more about what you're applying for?
Yeah. I did some online courses from universities, which kind of gave me a basic knowledge. I also asked my teachers. That was not my chemistry teachers. That was a major source of kind of getting a grasp on what chemistry at uni is actually about.
What would you say is your main motivation for applying for chemistry, and why Oxford of all other universities you could have applied to?
Well, I mean, we'll start with why Oxford. To me, Oxford was always kind of there, but it seemed like so far off that it was just kind of, I just applied. I didn't really think about it. I didn't visit, which was a bad idea because I had no idea what college I was applying for. Definitely visit if you can.
Obviously.
But yeah, I mean, it's just Oxford, isn't it? I wasn't about to not and pass up that opportunity. As for why chemistry, I think I don't know. I found it just really interesting at A level. Like it explained a lot of things that not just at A level in other books I've read as well. It was like explaining things which happen on the day to day that you wouldn't think about. I kind of see it like you know, if you just sit and watch a film, or if you are like someone who can actually see like or art as well, things like that. You seeing beyond the face level stuff, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. I think that chemistry can explain a lot more things than you might think.
Fair enough. Is there any last thing you want to add? People at home.
I mean, best of luck for application next year. Yeah, that's it. Bathtub.
This is what I have to work with. This look at this thing.